4, then going up to the clause number 10. And hopefully our audience, they are aware of the requirements of the other standards. And if you guys are not aware, so most of the management system standard, they have 10 clauses. First 3 clauses in each of the ISO standard is basically related to the standard document. And then we have clause number 4, which is context of the organization. Clause number 5, leadership. Clause number 6, planning. Clause number 7, support. Clause number 8, operations. Clause number 9, performance evaluation. And clause number 10, which is for improvements. So knowledge management system also follow the same approach. And we'll start with clause number 4. This is a bit different when it comes to clause number 4.4 in knowledge management system. But let's start from 4.1. The 4.1 requirement says that we should identify internal and external issues related to the objectives of knowledge management system.
Okay.
So can you, I have something from you, some examples of the issues?
It depends that if we discuss about the knowledge management system, we have to consider that when we are hiring the people, how we are focusing on their background, knowledge background or educational background, or their knowledge about the similar industry background, how they are working, what was their experience before. We have to focus more on these kind of things.
This all comes to the knowledge.
Yeah.
Anyway, so first thing is that what we want to achieve when we are implementing the knowledge management system. And basic purpose of implementing the knowledge management system is how to retain and utilize the knowledge. How to gather, retain and utilize the knowledge.
Or we can say enhancement of the knowledge of the organization.
If you can retain and utilize it automatically, that's why I say gather,
Okay.
retain
Right.
and utilize.
Good.
So the point you're mentioning, that comes under the gather.
Gather.
Every time, like we have a learned lesson, for example.
Yeah. Lesson learned, whatever there.
Lesson learned, gather the knowledge from there. Then retain it. When we say retain, we have to make sure we don't have outdated knowledge.
Exactly.
Like we have the Microsoft, I think Office 2022 version is going on, right?
Yeah.
We are not using Microsoft 10 now, or 97.
Exactly.
So that's kind of outdated knowledge, or example of an outdated knowledge. So first thing in clause 4.1, we have to identify internal and external issues. Internal, which is within the organization, and external is basically outside the boundary of the organization. And I feel like best approach for that is to do SWOT analysis when it comes to identification of internal issues, and doing a pestle analysis when it comes to the identification of external issues. So this is the requirement against clause 4.1. Then we have clause 4.2, very similar to other management system standards, which are published after 2015, for sure. So we have to identify all the interested parties or the stakeholders. General term, it's called stakeholders, and in ISO we use it interested parties. And then we have to identify their relevant needs and expectations as well. Tricky part, first of all, we need to understand what is knowledge.
Exactly. What are the requirements of knowledge? How we say that this is knowledge?
People are confused about that. So knowledge is basically an intangible asset. The source could be, as you mentioned earlier, once we hire an employee, he brings a set of skills and knowledge with him.
Exactly.
As an organization, how we adopt or how we collect and then retain part of our organization knowledge, and basically KMS help us to like fulfill the requirements of this one knowledge, organization knowledge requirements, which we discussed in our last session. So most of the time, if we take examples of interested parties, I believe our strategic partners, supplier, customers, they can help us a lot when it comes to the knowledge management, or they have certain requirement. For example,
Right.
if a customer is dealing with you, and let's say you are a salesperson,
Right.
he's expecting that you will give him complete details
Complete
related to a
knowledge.
project or related to a service, right?
Right.
So if you are retaining that knowledge or having an updated knowledge, only then I believe.
Exactly. So that he can better understand what we are offering.
Exactly.
What are the benefits? What are the best use of this
Yeah,
knowledge?
and to offer that, surely, first of all, organization should manage their knowledge, the product specifications.
Mm-hmm.
If a company is dealing in product, that's part of the knowledge itself. It's a
Exactly.
one of the categories under the knowledge. So in the second requirement, basically, a company or organization who's implementing knowledge management system, they have to identify the interested parties or stakeholders and also relevant needs and expectation of each of the stakeholders they have to identify.
Right.
Very similar, right? If our audience have knowledge related to the other management system standard, I believe it's easy for
It is same, yeah.
Clause 4.3 again outlines the requirement of defining the scope of knowledge management system. So here we have some, I think, a couple of things that we need to consider. While defining the scope of knowledge management system, we have to consider the knowledge domains,
Okay.
external internal issues and context, and other requirements as per the requirement of the organization. What kind of knowledge is important for them?
Okay. Like in other kind of standards, how we are defining the scope as per our work.
Yes. Here, based on the integrity of the
Integrity of
knowledge,
the
what is
knowledge.
important for us, what is not important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And see, if we see the clause, it says that within the scope and with respect to the organization's purpose, the organization shall identify, evaluate, and prioritize
Right.
knowledge domains, which is clear, external, internal issues, and context.
Exactly.
We have to see, maybe when we are implementing knowledge management system, could be a challenge. Our people are not trained. They have no idea what is knowledge,
What is not?
and they have no idea how to manage knowledge. So first thing, like, this is an internal issue that we have to train our people first.
Right. Knowledge doesn't mean that not only the education, the complete information what we are doing, what the organization requirement is.
It's like this, almost all the standards, people just define the scope. Okay, this is the activities we do in quality
Yeah.
management system, and we see when we do the audits, you have a well experience also. When it comes to the implementation, we did not consider
We
this.
didn't consider this. Exactly.
And ISO standard says in the first clause that when you have to define the scope, you have to think of all the issues, internal and external, whether you can implement the management system or not. That's the main purpose of defining the scope. Otherwise, we can say we start implementing without setting the boundaries.
Right.
You want to go to Dubai, you don't know how many miles it's away, and then you have no idea how much fuel you need.
How much time is required?
Exactly. So that's the approach which is happening, and it's not good. So we have to define a proper scope for knowledge management system. And now we'll move to clause 4. Clause 4.4 is quite important in knowledge management system. Under clause 4.4, we have knowledge development, knowledge conveyance and transformation, and I think knowledge culture is there also. That's basically, we can say clause 4 is 4.4, and subclause is a kind of core for the knowledge management system.
This is the base of this standard.
Exactly, because
if you don't have a culture in the organization, it cannot be implemented properly.
Because first thing, how you will develop your knowledge.
Right.
Second thing, how you will utilize. Transformation, conveyance and transformation. How you will convey the knowledge, how you will transform it for your utilization. Then we have knowledge enablers. What are the factors which enable the knowledge or gathering the knowledge or whole scenario of this, right? And then last we have how to develop a culture in the organization. So knowledge development, if we have a look on that, in knowledge development, again, we have first thing, how we will acquire the new knowledge. Second thing, what we have to cover in that one, applying the current knowledge. We have to evaluate as an organization the past experience we have, right?
Right.
Lesson learned, community of practices. Let's say we implement an ERP.
Right. Whatever the historical data is available, we can base on that.
We can base on that, but are we utilizing that?
Yeah. Is there any benefit we get from that?
Benefit is afterwards, but are we utilizing the available knowledge or no? That's why I was about to give the example of ERP. Small and medium companies, they implement an ERP and they struggle with that. Ask them what happened. Our people are not well trained to use this. Second question will be, the service provider provided them the training? Yes. That means the knowledge was shared, it was not managed, and people are not utilizing.
Or we can say the people are not capable to absorb that knowledge.
You have to make it capable. That's why we are managing the knowledge. That's what we are talking about.
Yeah.
That's why we are saying first part, acquiring new knowledge. Second part, utilizing the current knowledge. And then we have to retain the current knowledge also, whatever company have, and make sure that all the retained knowledge or all these knowledge assets are up to date. We don't have the outdated knowledge.
Right.
That all comes under the knowledge development. Then we have knowledge conveyance and transformation. How knowledge get conveyed or transformed? Who's the first factor?
Interaction.
We are the first.
We are the first, yeah.
Human beings.
Yeah.
All the team members. So all the team members are the first thing which will be playing a vital role when it comes to the knowledge conveyance and transformation. And then we have to make sure that knowledge is available by means of normally in quality management system. What we do, we write the policies, procedures. Why we write that?
In the documented form. So it can
that is the knowledge we want people to utilize.
Utilize it, yeah.
So that form, when we give them the policies, procedure, we are trying to convey them the knowledge, because what we believe in that these policies, procedures or work instructions are developed based on the best practices, based on best benchmarks. We did the benchmarking and develop a standardized policy or procedure, right?
Yeah.
So now what we are trying, we are asking our people, please refer to the SOPs, please follow the policies, please follow the instructions. We need to say, please, please, please utilize the knowledge.
This is basically the knowledge communication.
Yeah, but technically we say knowledge conveyance and
knowledge conveyance or transformation.
And then we have knowledge enablers. What are the things which will enable a culture in an organization, or which will enable us to capture the knowledge, retain the knowledge, and utilize the knowledge? Again, in that one, first one, we have human capital. Yeah, humans are the one who create the mess or who create the knowledge.
Exactly.
Then we have processes. In every company, there are processes. They are like standardized processes that we need to follow. So it enables the knowledge itself, knowledge management, or gaining the knowledge and all that. Then we have technology and infrastructure. For the technology, I believe I gave an example related to Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
So if you're using an outdated application, you're out of the world. It will consume more time.
Exactly.
You will face more challenges, right? Crashing the software. I'm not able to save the file in new format.
Cannot able to open the new format file or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. There will be a gap. If we are getting some knowledge from other companies and we are not able to use that one, means it is not implemented.
Yeah. And then we have the governance structure of the organizations. Whether the top level or corporate governance or the brains of each organization, they want to improve the culture to gain the knowledge, retain the knowledge, and utilize in the future or not. That's why I believe it's one of the most important ones, because the leadership or the top management, they are the one who basically give structure. They'll give the direction to the people in the organization.
Exactly.
And last but not the least, we have culture. How to develop a culture which support all of that what we have talked. Whether your organization culture support you to spend time to capture the knowledge, retain it, and utilize that.
Exactly.
Because some of the organization, they just want to do the things quickly.
Exactly. They install
Do it
everything,
as I am saying.
provide everything, and they just want the result.
Yeah, but
They're not giving time.
you do it as I'm saying. Maybe the person who's doing the job, he has a better methodology. Maybe he dealt with a similar thing in past. He's trying to utilize his past experience as a lesson learned from the past. So developing a culture is very important when it comes to knowledge management system. And this clause, again, I would say clause 4.4 and sub clauses under that is core of knowledge management
System.
Other clauses we will see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is like we are going through the 9001, but instead of quality, we are saying knowledge management.
Similar kind of structure.
Similar requirements, even easy. So the thumb rules are, first thing, knowledge development by any means. We should have a mechanism in place. How we'll develop the knowledge, how we'll use the current knowledge, how we'll make sure that the knowledge we have, it's not outdated.
Exactly.
Right? Secondly, to ensure conveyance and transformation. Third one, to understand the knowledge enablers in our organization.
Right.
We highlighted few points, but obviously there is
More
going into detail, but that's out of the scope of our discussion today. That will take like one point can take the whole 2 hours or 3 hours. And the last one is basically to have a culture which will support the knowledge.
Right.
And why the knowledge is important? Because it will really help an organization to avoid scrap work, avoid rework,
Okay.
make less mistakes, because you're following a patented formula.
Right. The involvement of the employees is also important in this one.
If they are not involved, how they will improve the knowledge? How
That is a part of the culture, that we have to develop a culture that they have to consult back and forth.
Exactly. That's what we said.
Right.
Human capital, one of the enablers when it comes to the knowledge management system. Now life is easy. So then we have, wow, where is clause 5? Did I miss something? This is clause 5. So clause 5, we have three sub requirements, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.1. Again, general requirements when it comes to the top management. As we always say, any management system, who's responsible? The management is responsible. The decision makers, they are the ones responsible.
Yeah.
They can have management representative, but just to follow the instructions.
Delegated responsibilities.
Delegated responsibilities, yeah, that's the exact term. So they are the one who is responsible to provide the resources which is required to have an effective knowledge management system in place. They have to again set the knowledge management system policy. Then make sure it's effectively being implemented, right? And like again, we can sum up that if anything goes wrong with the proper implementation of any management system, they are the one who's responsible.
Right.
The think tank.
Similar kind of requirement as well for the communication with the stakeholders and all these things.
They are the one. If your boss says that leave the internal audit, I want you to go home and help my family.
Right.
So everything is done. The culture is gone. The work is gone. Bad example, but it's an example. I was not ready for that. So they are the one who's responsible. If they can provide the resources, maybe you need to have a library, e-library.
Exactly.
You need resources. You need hardware resources. You need resources in terms of an expertise.
Maybe you need some platform for sharing all these things.
Kind of e-library. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So this was about clause 5.1. Then we have 5.2, which is developing a KMS policy. So it's a must requirement that there should be a KMS policy in place. And again, there is certain requirements where we have to declare to, like
Right.
Declaration of Independence for the USA. Here, KMS called Knowledge Management System. Policy declaration for the Knowledge Management System. The first requirement, we have to have a commitment for setting and achieving the KMS objectives, right? And then fulfilling the applicable legal and other requirements.
But there is also knowledge management system. What kind of legal requirements can be which can affect the system?
Yeah. One of the legal requirements happening in UAE, TOG training for the unskilled workers.
For unskilled workers.
Don't do it.
There is also kind of knowledge management.
You are giving them knowledge.
Yeah.
It's mandated by the government that unskilled workers should know their rights.
Yeah, because they're not literate, they cannot read
They
properly.
cannot afterwards read the labor
Okay.
law. So they make it a
This is a pure example of the knowledge
pure
management.
example of legal requirement.
Exactly.
Don't follow that. You will not get the visa. You'll get the fine.
Right, right.
So, like, unluckily, there is no direct requirement, but there are. How we can say there are? Like, let's take an example of construction sector. Go for classification. Why you need a civil engineer? You have to prove his knowledge, right?
Exactly. Up to what level you can construct or what kind of projects you can get based on the knowledge of your staff.
Exactly.
How many engineers are required, then you can get category A, category B, or
Exactly.
like this.
So again, it's based on the knowledge. So you will not find any direct requirement which says. you have to
Indirectly,
have-
it is linked with the legal requirements.
So competency requirements are there, but it's again managing the knowledge.
Right.
And again, we have to make a commitment how we'll have a culture related to the knowledge management system, and also have to have a commitment for the continual improvement as well. Seems like I'm giving you the training, not them. So then 5.3, it talks about the organization roles, responsibilities and authorities. Obviously, who is responsible for managing the knowledge management system itself. It could be a delegated responsibility from the team we have in the organization, which is, I think, best suited for the mid-size organizations.
Mhm.
Small, I don't think they can easily apply this one based on the resources they have, right? But for large organizations, most of them, they have their own department for the knowledge management.
Mhm.
So they allocate the resources. So when we are defining the roles and responsibilities, clear methodologies are there. We can have dedicated team for that, or we can delegate the responsibilities. And surely we should define again the authority matrix, who is reporting to whom in terms of knowledge management system. Then we have clause 6. Again, clause 6.1, risk and opportunities, 6.2, targets and objectives. Easy. So again, in 6.1, we have to identify risk and opportunities, and that will be from the internal and external issues and needs expectation of the interested parties. Those issues which will really impact the organization or the knowledge management system of organization, we'll consider them as a risk, or also we can define the opportunities if we are not able to fulfill the requirement of our interested parties or stakeholders. So then we can consider them also in the risk if we are not able to meet the requirement.
In risk culture also can be a part of that.
Exactly.
If culture is not developed, means
We
that's the
cannot say
risk.
directly culture, because we cannot say all the people in the company they're not adhering to the requirements. Not possible. Some people may be not following the requirement. Maybe they don't know the importance of the KMS. We cannot deny the fact that everyone utilize the knowledge, everyone utilize their past experiences, lesson learned,
Yeah.
not in a structured way. Standard give us guide how to put it in a structured way. So this is 6.1, 6.2. Then we have to define the targets and objectives. Smart objectives, right? While defining the target objectives, we should assign the person responsible for achieving each target. We should define the evaluation criteria for each objective when it will be evaluated, right? And also how to evaluate those. And I would like to add here one point, because we have seen people are confused about this one, or maybe some of the attendees who join us today. I've seen people feel like that once they set an objective, they cannot change it.
It's
It's a
common thing.
misconception. That
We have to complete 1 year, then we have to
and
reconsider.
we are not able to achieve that, and it's clear for us we are not going on the right direction, but still we are saying we cannot change it. But standard is clear about that. The reason why we are always suggesting that come up with the evaluation criteria and the time frame or way forward when you will evaluate. The reason of this evaluation is that to ensure we are on the right track. If we are not on the right track, we can change the ultimate objective.
Right.
So define the objective and define your KPIs.
Instead of annual evaluation, periodic evaluation.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Final destination through the KPIs. So define a objective or target with the KPIs, key performance indicators.
Right.
So this is the requirement of 6.2. It's going good. I would like to take a small break and make some announcements now for the people who are attending the training. We have Mr. Syed with us as well. Mr. Syed, if you can open your camera. I don't want the mic. I asked you for the camera. Not the mic, please. Camera. Will be his problem. Okay. So for the attendees who are attending the training, if you like to have a free certificate, please give us a feedback on this training, and we will appreciate if you can share our live feed on the YouTube. On the YouTube with your friends, so they can also utilize the knowledge we are trying to share. And after sharing the video from the YouTube, you can drop a message in the chat here or put a comment there on the live video that it's shared already. So we'll process your certificate afterwards and we'll share a copy with you.
Means we are guiding them how to manage the knowledge, how to distribute the knowledge.
We are trying to distribute the knowledge and do marketing for us.
Marketing.
I'm quite straight on these things. I don't need to go around and around, right? And if we have any questions, please. Mr. Syed, we don't have any questions today. We are going so good today. Oh, very nice. Okay, so let's take a quick overview of clause 7. Again, it says support, and it is a kind of support. 7.1, the standard basically says that we have to make sure that all the resources are provided for the effective implementation of the knowledge management system. Then we have 7.2, which identifies the competence requirement. So people has to be competent when it comes to knowledge management, right?
Exactly.
And they have to utilize the knowledge that they gain where it's needed, and also retain the documented information related to that. Okay. 7.3 is about awareness. Somewhere is still quality, yeah? Anyway. So in awareness, we have to make sure that the company who's implementing the knowledge management system, they have make sure that KMS policy is well communicated within the organization. Also, personnel or employees are aware of the relevant objectives when it comes to the knowledge management system. Not all the objectives relevant, where they are participating, where they will be impacting or affecting for the achievement. And they should be well aware of their contribution and role when it comes to the effective implementation of the management system. And last but not least, if they're not following the requirement, what kind of things they can face. Then 7.4, communication, how to ensure communication internally and externally. There should be a policy in place. It's quite easy. 7.5 outlines the requirements.
In communication, we have to define the channels as well. What kind of channels we are going to use for?
Exactly, you have to control it, because when it comes to the knowledge or communication, some things are supposed to share with the public, some things are supposed to share with the regulatory bodies.
Which are the effective channels?
Not effective.
Because maybe we are
Agreed channels.
We are sharing all the knowledge on the internet or computers or systems, but we have people they don't know how to use them.
You cannot share like that. That's the reason we need to develop a policy for that.
Okay.
So that everybody knows what are the communication channels, who's responsible to communicate. If I want to, let's say I'm working in an organization, they have e-channel, e-library, sorry, right? And I want to get access to the e-library. I'm a new employee. How I'll get the access? I have to go to IT. Or I have to go to HR. We know username and password or account creation will be done by IT, but they will not listen to me. They will listen to the HR.
Exactly.
So we need to have a clear way forward whom to approach, how to approach. That's the reason we always make a policy which is related to communication. And when we say communication in terms of knowledge management system, is basically how to communicate with the external parties when it comes to relevance with the knowledge management system. Now, I'm not talking about general. I'm not talking about how to share the knowledge. Maybe you are on that side. That we did already clause 4.4, knowledge conveyance and transformation. Here, let's say you got certified for KMS. Now you want to publicize that. How you will publicize? Who is responsible to make such announcement?
Okay.
So this is a public communication. You are making some disclaimers.
Exactly.
That disclaimers can backfire.
Where to public and how to public.
How to public and who's authorized also to do that.
Exactly.
So there should be proper channel of communication.
Right.
So that's what we are trying to set here in the communication. 7.5, how to control our documents, how to give them identification by means of titles, by means of reference numbers. Then maintaining the updated versions, reason being we are putting the revision numbers and version numbers, right? And then also we have to define how to retain the documented information and criteria for disposition as well. And how we'll make sure that this documented information, all these policies, procedures, which is relevant to the knowledge management system, is available at the point of use.
Also, it should be considered the language barriers.
See, when you make the documented information policy, you set there all of these things. That whether my document will be printed format or no. Whether in my documents I'll sign to approve it. It's not a necessity by the ISO. People feel like, okay, first page.
If you sign, stamp.
No, prepared by, review by,
Approved by. Exactly.
it's not a necessity, it's not a requirement. Because as per ISO, we should have a process in place for preparing, reviewing, and approving to make sure it's suitable for the use.
It's suitable for the use. Yeah.
So I can do something like that. I write a procedure. I write an email to my manager. This is prepared. Can you review it? He reviewed and sent me back. Okay, I reviewed. It's fine.
It's fine.
And approved. I don't need a signature. Copies of these emails is more than enough and sufficient that this procedure was reviewed and approved.
Right. Because this is still a clause. Then it should be reviewed and approved.
This is the requirement. Not like signed.
No form of signature.
See, there's a problem with the signature. On one side, what we are saying nowadays, go for e-copies, save the environment. And how you will sign it?
E-signature.
Is that e-signature? That's copy and paste. E-signature comes from Adobe signature.
Exactly.
Zoho signature software is there also. Like you have to take a subscription
Exactly.
for e-signature, or maybe you have to have a this one document management system.
Document system.
IT based. The e-signature people are doing that's not a signature. That's placing a photo. Anybody can place.
Anybody in place.
So the idea is that we have to have a process how to prepare, review, and approve. And why we need to do that? So that as an organization, as a process owner, we make sure it's suitable for use. It's up to the mark. Right? This question I'm asking commonly nowadays in my trainings, that most of the people think putting a reference number is a must requirement.
Reference number is a, you can say, it's a reference only.
But again, the standard says we should have a mechanism how to identify a document. So this is all knowledge what we are talking about. Huh? Misconceptions and real knowledge. So outdated things are there. So in identification, it could be by the title of a document. Right?
By the name.
By the
Name of the document, yeah. Title of the document, yeah.
I can put color coding also. Let's say my work instructions are all blue paper. And I'll identify blue paper plus the title of the document. So it will not be duplicated with other documents.
Right.
Or other type of documents. So purpose is to have to clear identification of document. But most of the people feels like reference number means ISO certification or ISO implementation. Again, problem with the knowledge. Knowledge sharing, knowledge conveyance.
There should be reference number, there should be revision number, there should be date of creation, date of review. This is mandatory.
Not mandatory. Only thing is mandatory, the one we are using gets suitable for use.
Suitable for
It is the one which
updated
is
one
to be used, like the updated version we are using. So somehow we have to identify. Best suited way is the version numbers or the revision numbers we put it. Okay. And date is just a helping aid. Like for example, one was published in 21, in 22 it was republished. So it's an indication it's the latest one.
If we say that knowledge management is already exists in all kind of standards.
It's the base of for everywhere.
Whenever we are putting in reference number means we are giving knowledge that this is the updated one.
Yeah. We're trying to avoid the outdated.
Outdated knowledge, yeah.
Yeah. So this is about the 7.5 requirements. Then we have clause number 8. It's very clear and easy clause. Come on. This is clause 8.
It is same like for other standards. There is a difference.
It's much easier. Apply the knowledge.
That's all.
Yeah. The problems you identify in clause 6, try to eliminate them. The risk. because you have to develop the knowledge. There is no organization in the world which can sustain without having a knowledge. Somehow knowledge management is happening at the level of a mind, manager's mind, right? In the small companies. Conveyance is a bit difficult in that way. So clause 8 is simply fulfill the criteria defined in your processes. Like here it has correlation very much with the 9001. In 9001 clause 4.4 we define the criteria how to run the processes.
Exactly.
Here we are saying in clause 8 you have to follow that criteria.
Right.
For each process, for each activity. Because that is based on the knowledge. Maybe knowledge of a consultant.
Right.
Maybe knowledge of an expert in the organization who write those policies and procedures and make
Exactly.
things standardized. Clause 9, monitoring, measurement, analysis and evaluation. Very easy. You will analyze your processes. You will see in your day-to-day operations whether people are using the updated procedures or not.
Mhm.
They are updated with the new technologies or not.
Exactly.
It's all knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe like visual inspection can tell you how people are doing.
This coming to the monitoring side.
It's monitoring, but it's general monitoring. Here we don't have customer feedback and all that. It's general monitoring whether we are using the updated knowledge or not.
And for the evaluation?
Evaluation based on the inspection results. Then you will evaluate what went wrong.
Mm.
We have a
How-
very nice system.
How the behavior, how the culture is going on in the organization.
Exactly.
Okay.
Why the culture is not changing? That's called evaluation.
Yeah.
You see people are not adapting to the new culture.
Mm.
Why? We got few questions. Let me pull out the questions now. I feel like finally something interested is going to happen. Let me pull out the questions. And thank you whoever asked the question. Let me pull out. Yes, Mr. Amarjeet said that as per the auditors or audit concerned, changing the color from reference number is an NC. That's a misconception, Mr. Amar. It's not an NC. It's misunderstanding of the requirement. That's what I was talking about a while ago. That there is so many misconceptions, and again, it's a problem with the ISO experts or the ISO auditors that their knowledge is outdated and they're trying to utilize that. So then we have internal audit. 9.2 easy requirement. We have to do an internal audit. We have to have a process in place. Case. We have to have a process in place to plan the audits. Then to prepare the audit plans or conduct a yearly audit at least once a year. And moving onward, 9.3 outlines the requirements of conducting a management review meeting. And on our shared screen, we can see the requirements, what are the inputs, what we need to discuss, and then conduct the management review meeting and take decisions how to improve the knowledge management system. And also there's a learn knowledge as well, that sometimes your program coordinator are sleeping.
How the employees are, how much involved?
Yes. So a live example is happening in our studio as well today. There our program manager, she's trying to sleep while doing managing the program. So we have to do the management review meeting at least once a year. And here I would like to add here, before I will end the session, that since it's a requirement standard, so it is a certifiable standard. If the organizations are interested to get certified against the standard requirement, so you guys can get in touch with our sales account managers or drop an email to us so we can address your requirements. And also thank you to the viewer on the live feed of YouTube. Thank you guys, and see you next week.